Okay, so basically today we're here to kind of talk about a little bit about post-issue service requests and escalations and, the right areas to go to when you have questions. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and let Amy start us off here. And so give me one more second. My system is running a little bit slow today, so bear with me. Amy, you want to take it away? Can't hear you, Amy, if you're talking.
It would help if I unmuted. Sorry. So the first thing we're going to talk about post-issue is additional deposits to enforce contracts, which can be, cash from the client in the form of a check or a transfer request from an existing account. So any additional deposits that were not in the initial suitability review do require additional suitability review. And I want to remind everybody that it is only in year one of the contract. We cannot receive funds after 1 year. If it's a check from the client, we re-review it to make sure, proper liquidity, that the assets were originally listed on the suitability form and that they're not using too much of their assets for the purchase. And that really just entails the client, sending in a check to Ameritas. The second option is a transfer request. So we would need a transfer form, and that's, no matter where it's from, whether it's Charles Schwab or, an existing insurance carrier, Allianz, that 3-page transfer form. We would need to know the expected amount. If it's a replacement from a life insurance or annuity contract, we also need the replacement notice. We would need page 3 of the suitability forms completed for the existing contract information. And that page would need to be just signed and dated at the bottom by the owner. And then we would need a copy of the most recent statement on the contract being replaced. And we would need a rationale for the replacement. And then if it's a qualified, we would need we send an inquiry on, alternatives to the direct transfer. It kind of relates to page 5 of the suitability form, qualified transfers. So, if there's other alternatives that they looked at, if the fees or charges are higher on ours versus theirs. So those are kind of additional questions that we might ask depending on the type of funds. So that is, and we ask that you send that at this point to the Suitability Help Desk email group, before any request is sent out or sent to Ameritas or funds sent to Ameritas, so that we can let you know upfront what we would need or if there's any issues.
Perfect. Okay. So moving right along, most post-issue service requests that are sent into Ameritas do take about 7 to 10 business days to be processed. So I wanted to start out this segment by making sure everyone is aware of the processing timeline, so that, we're not following up prematurely or wondering if Ameritas got the request, when are they going to process. Policyholder service requests take a little bit longer because there is a higher volume of requests that come in on contracts, and there's a little bit different of a service level agreement there.
Hey,
and one of, yes.
Sorry, just to interrupt. Looks like David has a question. David Morris.
Okay. What question do you have?
Maybe he didn't. No.
Oh. Okay.
He went away.
Okay, sounds good. No problem whatsoever. Okay. So one of the most common post-issue service requests that Ameritas gets is the strategy change. And so just to be really clear, a renewal letter is sent out to the client about 30 days prior to the renewal date. A hard copy is sent to your client. An electronic copy is pasted or displayed on LegacyNet, our website, under the client's record. It's important to know that if your client is invested 100% in the fixed strategy, Ameritas does not send out any type of renewal notification letter. And the reason for this is because when you are allocated into the fixed bucket, as some call it, you can transfer out of that strategy at any time. So really, the timelines for this renewal really don't pertain because you can transfer out of it at any point. The policyholder has up to 10 calendar days after the allocation renewal date to make changes. Ameritas does allow for verbal changes over the phone if authorized. So on the application, there is a section that asks for telephone transfer authorization, and if that is marked yes, the client can call in and make those changes. And moreover, if the client has allowed the agent this afforded this ability, he or she would be able to call in on the client's behalf. And then as a reminder, the statement generates the day after the allocation date. And so I just wanted to take just another moment to really chronicleize the timeline here so that there's a better understanding, because this seems to be an area where we do get some confusion. So in this particular example for the strategy change timeline, let's say premium was received today, May 1st, 2025. That means the allocation date for this particular contract is going to be May 5th of 2025, and it's going to be May 5th for the life of the contract. So in this example, the renewal letter is going to be sent out on 4/6 of 2026. It's not being sent out on 4/5 because 4/5 happens to fall on a Sunday. So it would be sent out on the following Monday, which would be 4/6. And then the renewal date would be 5/5 of 2026. The next thing to happen would be on 5/6, 2026, the statement would be sent out, and then the deadline to change the strategy in this example would be the May 15th of 2026. Does anybody have any questions? I know I kind of heard somebody start to talk. Any questions surrounding that? Okay. Okay, so also,
I think, I'm sorry, Jennifer. I think Lisa English had her hand up.
okay.
Yeah, Lisa English had a
Yes,
question.
is that statement, is that a mailed statement, emailed? How do you do the statement?
So all correspondence, like the renewal notification letter, the statement, the initial allocation letter, hard copies of those are all mailed to the client via USPS mail, and then we post an electronic copy on our website under the client's record. And when we do that, an email is generated from our system and goes to your email address of record, letting you know, hey, for policy FA 12345, you have a new correspondence, and there's a link where you can click on the link. It's going to take you to LegacyNet. You log in, it'll take you to the client's record where you can view it.
Okay, so we get notification and the client does.
Yes, it goes out to the both of you.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Perfect.
Okay.
And also see Nancy Perlman. How are you? Oh, you're on mute.
Okay. So you'd think we would learn by now, right? I have a question with regard to the renewal date to make changes. So I see that it says up to 10 calendar days from allocation renewal, but especially this time of year, people are on holidays and all kinds of things. It's sometimes hard to get them to sit down and do the review within that time frame. Is there any flexibility on that?
Well, I mean, that's really reviewed by Ameritas on a case-by-case basis. So, it really depends on the circumstances surrounding the particular case and what may have happened. But keep in mind, the renewal letter goes out 30 days prior, and the fact that you have 10 days after, you really have about a 40-day window to make changes.
Except
Understand.
one thing there, Jennifer, is just that I don't like to meet with them until we have the statement, and the statement.
Yeah, that's what I was going to mention is
Okay.
understand that a lot of times we're waiting until the statement comes out to make those changes. Again, this is the guidelines that Ameritas has put forth. And so if you do have a situation that is outside of that, or it doesn't look like you're going to be able to make it, it's always good to reach out to Ameritas or to us at the Suitability Help Desk to see if if an allowance could be made. But no, historically it has to be made within that 10 calendar day window.
Thanks, Nancy. Thanks, Jennifer. Hey, Deanna.
Hey, I just had a quick statement on that with Jennifer as well. In that, so I just wanted everybody to know that you will get an email notification when the statement mails. That is way before the client receives it in the mail. So you can still do a review in plenty of time for those 10 days.
Good point.
But we can also let the client know when they get the program, hey, in a year's time, we're going to have those 10 days from, this date. So they'll have a year of notice, basically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. So moving along to withdrawals and surrenders, there are no penalty-free amounts available in year one. Flexmark does allow for an additional 10% emergency withdrawal during the life of the contract. And I wanted to stress the importance of understanding that this is an emergency withdrawal. It's not a withdrawal because maybe somebody wants to, have an extra, money to put into their bank account. Let's say they want to buy, a new car, what have you. It's really for emergency purposes. And the emergency conditions are outlined within the contract that they received. Surrenders that are made early in the contract life are subject to additional suitability reviews. And any type of withdrawals, must be received by 12/1 to ensure processing by 12/31 for the current tax year. So if you're trying to take a withdrawal, to be applied during, let's say, the 2025 tax year, you really need to get that in by 12/1. For those of you that are selling the products with the intent of the client turning on the income rider in the future, we do have a form that is required. The form cannot be dated, cannot request income more than 90 days in the future. So let's say today a client signs, they can't request the income in December. They can only go 90 days out. So the maximum would be August 1st in my example. For Flexmark, it's a 1-year wait in order to start income under any of the income riders. For Apex Advantage, which some of you guys have sold, it's a 30-day wait. And then, so I wanted to make sure everybody understands that the date that is used on the income rider form is the date the income payment is going to be processed. So let's say, for example, you request income on 5/1. Ameritas is going to process that income on 5/1. It's going to leave their bank on 5/2, and depending on how quickly your client's bank processes those types of EFTs, it might be a day or two before they see it. Any questions?
Jennifer, this is Kenneth Ray. I have a question.
Sure.
Then you've mentioned that the emergencies, if they were doing the withdrawal, they are defined in the contract, what would constitute an emergency. Is that correct?
Yes, they are. So in the contract, there is an endorsement for the emergency withdrawal provision. And within that endorsement, it does outline what is considered an emergency for purposes of that benefit.
Okay. So, thank you. I thought that I thought I was trained that an emergency, they kind of define it on their own, but that's not true. So it's already
No.
defined in the contract. What is an
Right,
emergency?
it is. And what I can do after this meeting is I can provide, the AMBA team with a copy of that endorsement that they can share with you all in the field.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Any other questions before we move on? Okay. Okay, so minimum required distributions, a reminder letter is sent out with the 5498, including the fair market value for the contract, no later than May 31st of every year. And that gets sent out on all qualified contracts for Ameritas. Just like I mentioned with respect to withdrawals, required minimum distribution requests also need to be in-house at Ameritas by 12/1 to ensure processing by 12/31 for the current tax year. And then Ameritas does also allow for those required minimum distributions to go to a charitable organization. There is an annuity qualified charitable distribution form that they have that manages these types of requests. Address, contact information changes, beneficiary changes. There's a form available. Once Ameritas processes those, a confirmation letter is sent to the owner. The agent is CC'd on those. In those circumstances, you'll get a copy of that letter mailed to you. It's not something that's being posted on LegacyNet today. It's something that we're looking at maybe sometime in the future. For those clients that might be interested in doing a Roth IRA conversion, with Ameritas, it's all or nothing, full conversions only. And again, just like the withdrawals, the required minimum distributions, we do need to have those in-house by 12/1 in order to process by 12/31, excuse me, for the current tax year. And then some of the more one-off requests like third-party authorization and qualified distribution relations order, a quadro, which really involves divorce and the splitting of a qualified asset. We also have forms on our website to manage those types of requests. Now, I wanted to just take a real quick minute to pause and talk about required minimum distributions, because I know that there's a lot of questions surrounding when a person is required to start taking their distributions. So the Secure Act 2.0 raised the age for taking these distributions to 73 years of age for those that were born in years 1951 to 1959. And then for those that were born 1960 or later, the minimum required distributions are required to start at age 75. And then I've included a little chart that kind of outlines what the expectations are pursuant to the Secure Act here. Does anybody have any questions? Okay, so Amy, did you want to talk about the claims process a little bit?
Yeah, sure. So for the claims process, what would happen is the agent or the beneficiary would call into the Ameritas claims area to advise on the death of the owner, annuitant. That will then result in a claim filing. Ameritas will mail the claim forms to the beneficiary of record, not to the agent. There are no claim forms available online. Jen and I don't have them. They can only be obtained from Ameritas Claims. And that can usually take about 7 to 10 business days to get out. The beneficiary, once they receive the forms, would need to mail the completed claim forms back along with requested documentation, including a certified death certificate. Once it's received, it can take about 15 business days for the claims examiner to review the forms. If there is a not in good order item or items, they will communicate to the beneficiary within 7 to 10 business days of what those are. If it is in good order and the election is taken as a death claim in a lump sum, payment will be made within 15 to 30 calendar days. And if you're, corresponding with claims, it can take about 7 to 10 days for emails to be responded to or a callback. They usually don't take calls directly, the examiner. If an agent is unable to reach a claims examiner and the beneficiary has not received communication after, the days we've outlined here, you can escalate to us here at Legacy and we can try to get involved in getting a quicker resolution for you. Any questions? Okay. So we're going to talk about escalations. So what is an escalation? An escalation is a situation in which something becomes greater or more serious in nature. So, an example of that is, when we have something in suitability and it's a reduced purchase, or it's a decline reconsideration or additional premium, anything that's kind of serious in nature, that is an escalation. For new business in PHS, when trying to work with Ameritas on a request for processing, and you have a lack of response to the request being made, or you're emailing constantly paperwork and they say they don't have it, those become escalations. What is not an escalation is questions regarding a standard inquiry. So if Jen and I send a standard inquiry, you just need to answer our inquiry or reach out to us if you have questions about the inquiry. And then for new business in PHS, questions regarding standard requests within the processing turnaround times, the ones that Jen had outlined before, as far as PHS turnaround times, claims turnaround times, new business turnaround times. If it's within processing turnaround times, those are not considered escalations. We have to give the proper amount of time for things to be responded to.
Right. And so, like Amy said, I thought it might be a little bit, it might be helpful to kind of go over some escalation examples, to kind of talk about. So, more recently, we've gotten, an inquiry about an incorrect age on a contract. It went to Legacy's IT business analyst area, and really, inquiries such as this would really go to, Ameritas directly, and or us here at Legacy on the suitability help desk or service inquiry team. So there was a little bit of a question regarding, a commission payment, an insured age, and things of that nature that was, misdirected. Another good example of an escalation that was actually warranted is a situation where you can see here that the agent had contacted, it looks like the agent had contacted Ameritas on April 16th. And then as of the 22nd, still had not gotten an email, and previously had sent an email on the 11th. And so that email was actually escalated to Legacy by Joe. And that would be the proper thing to do. We're kind of feeling like we're outside the turnaround time. We're not getting a response. It is, you know, a little bit time sensitive. And so this is a good example of what should be escalated. And then in the third example that, you know, we have here is a situation where we have an agent that's checking the status of funds that were received on the 7th, and those were sent to Amy and I, which, you know, for all intents and purposes, you know, most of you are aware, once we approve and review suitability, you know, all processing happens at Ameritas. So this was almost as if it was escalated to us for handling, like there may have been an issue. However, it was just a standard inquiry, and it really should have gotten to Ameritas New Business instead of to us. So that brings us to our next slide. You're probably wondering, well, fine, you know, now we understand what an escalation is, what's not an escalation. So who do we contact? You know, so if you feel like you are having an issue or unsure of your situation and whether or not, you know, what you have going on is an escalation or not, your first step would be to contact your AMBA field marketing leader or your FML. If for some reason your FML is not available, Joe Madelon would be your next person to contact, and he's going to get you, you know, set straight as to what needs to happen. Is this truly an escalation? Is this something that AMBA, you know, can help with, or does this need to go one step further? But as we mentioned, you know, for escalations, when you're really feeling like you're not getting what you need, or if it's really related to a suitability inquiry, you're going to contact Legacy at the Suitability Compliance Help Desk. I've outlined the email address here, suitabilityhelpdesk@legacynet.com, as well as our telephone number. We're here 7 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. California time, 5 days a week, not 7, 5. And then, you know, for just those general inquiries, you know, related to, hey, did the money come in? When is this case going to issue? What's the status of the transfer? The expectation is really to email Ameritas directly using the, you know, annuity nb_idc@ameritas.com. That's going to warrant the fastest response. A lot of you do use that email address and probably can see that you do get a pretty quick response. You can always pick up the telephone and call them as well. And then for policyholder services, again, if you have a general inquiry, maybe you sent in an address change, you know, 15 days ago, you want to make sure it was processed for your client. You can certainly reach out to the Ameritas CS@dxc.com or give them an email. As we mentioned before, the turnaround times for policyholder services and their responses is a bit different than they are for new business. So new business typically responds within 24 to 48 hours. Policyholder services, you could see, you know, a lag time or a wait of about 7 to 10 business days for a response. So if you're looking for something a little bit more immediate when you are wanting to confirm that something was received and processed, it might be a little bit better to make a telephone call.
Jennifer, quick question. Can you go back to that slide for 1 second? We
Sure.
have a box on the bottom of our page that says stop sharing or hide. If you can just click hide so we can see that phone number on the bottom.
Sorry about that. I
is
didn't know, yep, I didn't know that you guys could see that little box. Sorry about that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So perfect, because we needed that phone number. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
100%. And I'll share that also in the chat, just so everybody has it.
Well, and then it's my understanding in conversations with Joe and the AMBA team that there is an internal repository that should have all this information for Ameritas specifically that you all could access. So if you're not sure where that's located or need a refresher, my suggestion would be is to reach out to your AMBA field marketing leader to find out where that is and where to access it. Also on our website, we do have a contact us page that outlines all the contact information, not only for Legacy, but for the various departments and business areas for Ameritas. So any other questions right now? Okay. Well, if that is all, then I guess we will go ahead and conclude the training session. If you all have any questions or if anything comes up, feel free to reach out to us or your field marketing leader.
Yeah. Jennifer, Amy, thank you so much, and all the Legacy team for putting together this incredible series that y'all have done for us. It's been so helpful, and we really appreciate it. So thank you so much.
Yeah, we did want to remind everybody that we will have this video that is recorded up within 48 hours. So you'll be able to see that on SharePoint.
Sounds great. All right, guys, you guys have a great afternoon. We'll talk soon.
Yeah. Thanks so much. Y'all have a great
Thanks, you
afternoon.
guys. Bye.